Hey, what's up, Tornado 4, day 35 of the Big Red Van build. Welcome back. So today's episode is something, I don't want to say I've been regretting it or dreading it, I guess I should say. It's not that, it's just I have not, until now, I've had a hard time figuring out where I was going to put this diesel heater. Just because everything's lighted out, just so much, and I wasn't quite sure how much room I was going to have. I looked at putting it under the front seat, but the gas tank is directly under there. I looked at putting it under this seat. It would have worked under this seat, but then also, where is the gas tank going to go for the diesel tank? So I came up with, so this is a diesel heater. If you don't know, I'm sure you've watched plenty of videos, you've seen these things put in. We don't have to talk about that. I'm mainly just talking about where I put it and why I put it there. So my main concern was I didn't want the tank to be too far inside of the cab of the living space of the van, to where you're going to have to come into the van to fill this tank. And I did look at putting it over here by the door, but it wouldn't fit in between. I thought about mounting it on the other side of the refrigerator, the kitchen counter here, but there wasn't enough space between there and the sliding door, so it would have had to have come over here in the entryway, and I didn't like that because the entryway is already a little tight anyways, and then now you're taking up another 3 or 4 inches. So I came up with this spot over here. Let me pull this out a little bit. I got it fit in there just right. So having the swivel on the front seat, I thought, well, you fill up your gas right there already. So you fill up your petroleum, and then I thought, well, with this swivel here, the lever for the swivel's right there on the side. You just click that, swivel this open, and then it'll be able to just pull the diesel pump, right through this door and be able to fill up the tank. I thought, that's a good option. I did have to do some modifications. I had to cut a little bit of the flooring to sink this tank down far enough so when this swivel came around, it didn't hit the top of the tank. So I was able to get it in there first. Right, there we go. So I was able to get it in there, and now the seat can still swivel without hitting something else. But I thought that's a great spot for it, or at least a decent spot. Now, one thing you should do if you decide to go here or wherever you decide to put your tank, make sure you paint this wood. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. This isn't going to be, I'm going to still put a finish piece of wood out here, but you want this wood to have some type of cover to it, like some paint, because if you were to happen to spill a little bit of this diesel, raw wood, like untreated wood, can just absorb that diesel fuel, and then you might have the smell of some diesel fuel inside the van, and you don't want that. And that was really my main concern. I don't want fumes of diesel fumes inside the van if we can help it. So this was the best option I came up with, and I think it's going to work out pretty well. The diesel heater here will actually go. I've already got the floor cut out. Let's lower this just a little bit. So I've already got the floor cut out and the plate put in there. I just got to get this all hooked up, and then the diesel heater will actually drop. Will actually drop in down there. And then the heat, move this back a little bit. So the diesel heater will be there. The refrigerator will come back around here. There's still enough. Let's move this back over here. There's still enough of a gap here, I think, to where you got enough airflow in there, and then the heat will come out here to the main cabin and be able to, you know, radiate up. I think that's going to work pretty well. But anyways, go ahead and get this thing installed, and then we'll come back and, you know, finish up with it here at the end. Okay guys, now that we're down here underneath the van, I'll give you a little better idea of where this fuel line's going and how I've got it connected. The fuel line comes from the top up there down through the hole that's down here for, you actually have a secondary tube there, and I guess you got a secondary tank. The line would come out here and go to your secondary tank. So I used this hole to bring it through. There was a small clip here that's holding some electrical lines that I looped the little tubing through to keep it from, you know, sagging down real low. I've got the fuel filter connected in line before it gets to the pump in the right direction. You want to make sure that the fuel fills up into this clear area first and then goes through the fuel filter before it gets to the pump. I've got the pump at a 30-degree angle, almost 45-degree angle probably, which is what that you want from the instructions and all the videos that I've watched, because this is basically a pump. It's a cylinder pump that moves like this and basically forces the diesel fuel up through there, and it uses the diesel fuel as its lubricant as well. So before I turn this thing on, I'm going to have to, you know, get the fuel at least all the way down here and pretty close to this pump, so when it starts pumping, it won't have to run dry too long before the fuel gets in there. Now, one thing that I did that I didn't really I didn't like the way this fuel line was just basically dangling here. So I actually inserted a riv nut right there. And then what I've got, I actually found these for hoses and like water hoses mainly, but it's got rubber around it, and I'm just going to loop that around there and then mount this thing up there using a 1/4-inch screw. I've got some stainless steel that I used for the roof rack, so I put in a 1/4-inch riv nut, and then this should basically just screw right into that. And then that way, you know, with the rubber, it's just basically kind of holding it up there. There's not a lot of tension. You don't want tension on this to put any kind of pressure on it, but it's just enough to hold it here, so it's not dangling around. And then I put it right behind this heat shield, so then that way any kind of debris that was coming, you know, from under the van should miss it, you know, if it's going to hit this heat shield before it'll ever, you know, come up into the fuel filter. So anyways, that's where I'm at so far with the fuel line. I've got this right here is where the plug goes in, the electrical plug to run this. Probably going to loop that back through there and run it up, you know, inside the van as well. And then everything else from here on back is basically just the end tube sucking air into the chamber for the fire, and then the X tube, which runs out through the muffler. And I'll show you that in here in a second once I get it hooked up. Okay guys, just wanted to show you, I had to take this heat shield off to run the wire down. Should have done it whenever I ran the fuel line and just, you know, wasn't thinking about it. But I thought since I was taking this thing back off, might as well give you an idea of what it looks like. There's basically 4 bolts that hold this on. Pull it off. Here now you can see this is the fuel line running from the where you fill up down to the tank, and then here's, you know, like I said, there's an extra hole there for this to run through. Now I just got to get the electrical line. You can actually pull this grommet rubber grommet off. Just got to reach in here and find the wire, and then I'm going to just get it down through the same hole like so. I can put this back now. So anyways, I'm going to use the same little clip over here that I used for the fuel line. If I can get it loose. The other I was able to just slide through. I gotta actually figure out how to undo this one. Oh, I see. It just slides out. Okay. And then I can run this wire, through here. There we go. And then I'll pull a little more slack. Get it enough over here to where I can get it. Okay guys, so while you watch me struggle to get this wire connected, it takes me a while, but what actually happens is I pulled the wrong wire down through. This is actually the wire going to the control unit instead of the wire that should come down to the pump. And when you're doing these projects, you'll find that these kind of things happen, and what it is just basically damn time killers. I spent 10-15 minutes taking off the cover, getting the wire ready, running it down, and I'm down here on my back underneath the van trying to figure this thing out, and I think I'm getting ready to realize it now. I think I ran the wrong wire down. I did. Okay, this is the wrong wire. All right, well, pull this back up through and put the right wire in. Okay guys, sorry about that. That was the wrong wire. This one should be the right one. The other one is what goes to the remote control, I'm assuming. I'll get to that later. So gotta just pull this down. Back up through here. Go. And let's try this once again with hopefully the right wire this time. There we go. And looks like it's got a little metal clip at the very top. I think you just push it down. Well, maybe not. Maybe that's all it does. Yep, seems like it's on there right. Okay, so anyways, that's the way I decided to run my fuel line and my power wire to the pump. And then it's just a matter of putting this back on, which is pretty easy. Just slip this back on over the 4 bolts there and put the 4 nuts and see. Okay guys, now back over to basically the intake and exhaust. This is what's going to suck air into the unit for it to burn. You want it to be as clean as possible. So I'm actually going to wrap it around here and get it kind of up into this little cavity. And then this air filter will go on right here. And I'll probably, mount it to the side. That way debris and stuff, it'll be free of debris. and out of the way, and hopefully sucking up, you know, at least some fairly clean air. The other part, this part, there's a couple features that you need to keep in mind when you're putting your exhaust on. One, that the muffler is the lowest point of the exhaust, and two, that it's shaped, that you've got it on here this way with the screw hole up top, because at the bottom there's a little small hole down here. It's basically a weep hole, so if moisture gets in your line, it'll flow down and then weep out of the muffler. And then the third part is you want all of your exhaust to be pointing out away from the bottom of the van, because, you know, if you're camping overnight and you're running this heater, you don't want this pointing under the van and causing, you know, a buildup of fumes underneath the van. You want them to exhaust outside of the van. So this is kind of my plan. So basically that'll go there. This will suck back up in here. I think there's enough of a gap that this should be able to get clean air, and this should be able to, you know, have a nice downward flow to the muffler, leak out the water, and then exit, you know, the fumes outside the van. So we'll do a little time lapse, and I'll get this thing all hooked up. Okay guys, that's the end of day 36. Yeah. So I got the heater in. I just wanted to kind of do a little wrap up, and then I'll show you, you know, the final product. I think it came out really nice. But it's one of those things I've been putting off because I really didn't know where I wanted to put this heater. but I knew it needed to go in the van, and I had to get some of this other stuff in here to know if I had room over here or if I was going to have to put it in the back or exactly what. So let's go take a look at the final. It's not the exact final product because I still got to finish a few things out, but overall it's done. So let's take a look. So here's the fuel tank here. I was able to get this panel back in, drilled a little hole for it. It came out really nice and clean. The heater is here. I don't have the vent hooked up yet because I've still got to build the bench, you know, here for the that's going to cover the refrigerator. But this is all in and installed, and then the powers run basically up and around over here. Well, actually it's run all the way down to the DC outlet, and we've got a 20 amp fuse in there for the power, and then from the heater running back over and around over here, it comes down, and you've actually got the controller. See if we can get a better look at that. There we go. So it's on. It just means this, when I plugged it in, was 55 minutes ago. I've still got to go in and program this, but I don't have diesel fuel in the tank yet, so I don't really want to turn it on. You got to remember, once you get ready to turn this thing on, let's see here. Once you get ready to turn it on, you got to make sure that you have diesel fuel in the tank, and basically you need to feed the diesel fuel down to the pump, because once that pump starts working, from what I understand, once you set it up, you have about, I don't know, maybe a minute or so that the pump will run until the fuel. All right, hold on a second. My wife's adding. Sorry. Once the fuel gets up to the pump, then you'll be good, because like I said before when we were talking underneath the van, the diesel fuel is actually the lubricant for that pump. So make sure you get the fuel as closest to the pump as you can before you turn it on and set the thing up. So anyways, that's the end of day 36. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you like what I'm doing. And if you are subscribed and want to keep track of what's going on with the van, make sure you hit the bell, and it'll notify you every time I get another video up. So day 36 of 60 days to build this van. We're on schedule, so stay tuned. Probably start putting the sealing in here in the next day or so. I think I've got all the wires run that I need to run, so it's safe to go ahead and put the sealing up. We can start hooking the lights on in here, and then really we can start getting into some more finishing touches of the van. So hopefully in the next couple days we'll start seeing, you know, a lot more things going in and finishing up. So thanks for staying tuned, and we'll see you again tomorrow.